These days, people collect just about anything, from rare coins to sports memorabilia. But rarely do those personal collections go on public display. However, Gretchen Bates is going to take us to Cookeville, where one woman's personal doll collection makes up an entire museum.
There is just something magical about dolls. They awaken a child's imagination and spark their curiosity. As a child, Molly Taylor loved playing with her Aunt Velma's dolls. She spent every afternoon of her childhood at her aunt's home.
You never know where you're learning things until you are of the age where you need to know how to use them, I suppose. She taught me how to sew. I've been sewing since I was 4. Making doll clothes was the first thing I sewed.
They sewed a lot of dolls' clothes. They had to. You see, Velma was passionate about dolls. She started collecting in the 50s and 60s when collecting dolls was the second most popular hobby in the world.
The first time I remember her telling me that she bought some dolls in town in Cookeville at Christmas time at Western Auto. And they walked across town in the snow and they had Madame Alexander dolls on sale. She bought some of them, and then she bought some China dolls from a little antique junk store. But my children and grandchildren, they loved playing with them. They just took them for granted. They just thought that everybody had hundreds of dolls, I guess.
Hundreds of dolls turned into thousands of dolls. No one really knows for sure how many Velma had. Her entire house was full of them. Every room, every closet, every drawer. Even the attic was packed with dolls. As Velma got older, she started to worry about what would become of her dolls when she was no longer around to care for them.
Initially, she just didn't want the collection split up, and even though there were 12 or 13 cousins, nieces and nephews of hers, we had no place to put them. If we had sold them, it would have been a huge effort, and then nobody really wanted money from her. So she decided to give them to the county.
All of these dolls are Mary Poppins dolls. And then look at these dolls over here.
But where would the county display a rare collection of dolls? Many of them antique. Fortunately, another lifelong resident of Putnam County had her own collection to share.
This is the Patton House Thompson Doll Museum. The Patton House being the facility was donated by Mrs. Maureen Patton, who taught home economics at the high school, and I was one of her students, and my maiden name was Patton, so a lot of people say, "Did you give that house?" And I said, "Nope, I'm not even related, but I loved her."
Mrs. Patton donated her home to the county to preserve her own collection of genealogical records and to keep Mrs. Thompson's doll collection intact. And so the Patton House Thompson Doll Museum was born. Linda Gropp is a volunteer at the museum.
We're very lucky Miss Patton wanted her records to be kept and donated the house. Miss Thompson wanted her dolls to go on, and she donated the doll collection. We're very lucky these two lifelong residents of Putnam County did something great.
This is just like her house was. And when you go see her, you walk in, there were dolls here, there were dolls there were dolls up the steps.
Our museum, I think what's unique about it is that it has something for everyone. There's antique dolls all the way down to Barbie, and then there's all the way down to the McDonald's Happy Meals dolls, which you can get for practically nothing. You know, there's one here that's made from an apple. There's every medium that you could possibly have, it's here. You know, the China head dolls, they're from the early 1900s. The German antique bisque dolls are usually from the late 1800s. This is a very popular exhibit. These are the First Ladies. You see, from Martha Washington on through Mrs. Nixon. This is a replica of the inaugural gown for each First Lady.
Everyone is fond of the First Ladies, but the centerpiece of the museum is the large doll house. Each window of the house portrays a scene from our past. Every detail was carefully handcrafted by Mrs. Thompson.
What is special about the little scenes is that anything she could make, she did. Whether it's a needlepoint rug, draperies, curtains, whatever. She made as much as she could. The larger furniture is salesman's samples, some of which are Show and Hut, and that's an old company. I think the piano is a Show and Hut. So how she got them, I don't know, but we're glad that they're here.
Walking through these rooms, I feel like I'm 5 years old again. I had a doll just like this when I was growing up. That's probably one reason adults enjoy this museum just as much or even more than children.
I just think coming brings back so many memories for women and children, little girls, and even some men whose daughters have played with dolls. If the dolls could talk, I think they would say that they had had a good life, and I'm sure they would say they're thrilled to see people come by and gaze at them and talk about them and reminisce. Oh, I had that doll when I was little.
You don't have to be a doll lover to see this. I mean, this was a lifelong dream of one woman who put together this great collection and wanted to share them with people. We're real lucky that we're able to do this. We're all volunteers. We all knew Miss Thompson and have a special bond with her, so it works out very nice for us.
You can tell a story with this one. You see Little Red Riding Hood and the wolf and the grandmother.